The Cold War, a period of geopolitical tension between the United States and the Soviet Union, lasting from the mid-1940s to the early 1990s. It was a global struggle for power and influence where the two superpowers never engaged in direct military conflict, though they came close on several occasions. This era shaped international relations for decades, and its legacy continues to influence us even today. The Cold War did not emerge out of thin air. Its roots lay in the aftermath of World War II, where the devastation of the war created a power vacuum. The United States and the Soviet Union, once allies against Nazi Germany, filled this void. However, their wartime alliance masked deep-seated ideological differences. At the Yalta Conference in 1945, these differences came to the forefront as Allied leaders met to discuss the post-war order, but disagreements arose over the fate of Eastern Europe. Stalin wanted a Soviet sphere of influence, while the US and Britain sought self-determination for these nations. The seeds of mistrust were sown as the Soviet Union's actions in Eastern Europe, like installing communist regimes in Poland and Hungary, further fueled tensions. The US saw this as a betrayal of wartime agreements. The Truman Doctrine in 1947 marked a significant shift in US policy, pledging to contain the spread of communism. The division of Germany, especially Berlin, became a flashpoint. The Soviet blockade of West Berlin in 1948-49 brought the superpowers to the brink of war. The Berlin airlift, a massive humanitarian effort, allowed the West to supply its sectors, solidifying the division of Europe. Winston Churchill's famous speech in 1946 captured the essence of the new reality. An iron curtain had descended across Europe, dividing East from West. The Soviet Union tightened its grip on Eastern Europe, with satellite states emerging, bound to Moscow's will. The Warsaw Pact, a military alliance, formalized Soviet control. In response, the US formed its own network of alliances. NATO, established in 1949, committed the US to the defense of Western Europe. The world was now divided into two armed camps, each side possessing nuclear weapons. The threat of a global conflict cast a long shadow over the world. The Cold War was not confined to Europe, it spread to every corner of the globe. The US and the Soviet Union supported different sides in regional conflicts from Korea to Vietnam, from Angola to Afghanistan. These proxy wars became testing grounds for superpower rivalry. The Cold War also witnessed an ideological struggle for hearts and minds, with both sides engaging in propaganda campaigns and seeking to win over public opinion. Cultural exchanges such as the US-Soviet space race became arenas for competition, permeating every aspect of international relations. Section 4. Proxy Wars and Brinkmanship, a Global Chessboard. The Cold War was characterized by indirect confrontations. Proxy wars became a hallmark of this era. The Korean War, spanning from 1950 to 1953, was a prime example. North Korea, backed by the Soviet Union and China, invaded South Korea. The US intervened militarily, supporting the South. The war ended in a stalemate. The Vietnam War, from 1954 to 1975, was another proxy conflict. The US supported South Vietnam against the Communist North, backed by the Soviet Union and China. The war escalated into a major conflict. It had devastating consequences for Vietnam and deeply divided American society. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. The Soviet Union deployed nuclear missiles to Cuba, just 90 miles from US shores. President John F. Kennedy imposed a naval blockade on Cuba. Tensions soared as the two superpowers stared each other down. After tense negotiations, the Soviet Union agreed to remove the missiles. The Cold War was marked by a strategy of brinkmanship. Both sides pushed each other to the edge, threatening massive retaliation. This dangerous game of chicken tested the nerves of leaders and populations alike. The world held its breath as the superpowers walked a tightrope between confrontation and restraint. Section 5. The Arms Race, a Perilous Pursuit. A defining feature of the Cold War was the relentless arms race. Both the US and the Soviet Union sought to outdo each other in military might. They developed increasingly powerful weapons, including nuclear bombs, missiles, and submarines. The world watched with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The development of the hydrogen bomb in the 1950s significantly escalated the stakes. These thermonuclear weapons were far more destructive than their atomic predecessors. The concept of mutually assured destruction, or MAD, emerged. Both sides recognized that a nuclear war would be catastrophic for all. The arms race placed an enormous strain on both economies. Vast sums of money were poured into military research and development. The pursuit of military superiority had a profound impact on domestic priorities. It diverted resources from social programs and infrastructure projects. Despite the dangers, the arms race also had some unintended positive consequences. It spurred technological innovation in various fields, from aerospace engineering to computer science. The quest for military advantage led to breakthroughs that had civilian applications. Section 6. Legacy of the Cold War, a New World Order. The Cold War finally came to an end in the late 1980s and early 90s. The Soviet Union, weakened by internal problems and external pressures, collapsed. The Berlin Wall fell in 1989, symbolizing the end of an era. The Cold War had a profound and lasting impact on international relations. The post-Cold War world was initially characterized by optimism. The threat of nuclear annihilation receded. Many hoped for a new era of peace and cooperation. The U.S. emerged as the sole superpower. It sought to promote democracy and free markets around the world. However, the Cold War's legacy proved to be complex and enduring. Regional conflicts, fueled by ethnic tensions and historical grievances, continued to erupt. The rise of new global powers such as China challenged the US-led world order. The world transitioned to a multipolar system. The Cold War also left behind a legacy of mistrust and suspicion. Old habits die hard. The US and Russia, despite the end of the Cold War, continued to view each other with caution. The challenges of nuclear proliferation and terrorism cast a shadow over international relations. The Cold War may be over, but its echoes can still be felt today.